Welcome to WestWorld, Season 1. I'm joined by two hosts, Ethan and Eckhart. How's it going, guys?
Hello. Good.
Well, we had our first episode of Season 3. And do we want to talk about it first and then discuss what we liked about it or didn't like about it? You guys make the call, whatever direction you guys want to go.
I think we go freeform.
Okay.
Okay. Not in order.
No order at all.
Did you guys like the fact that there was like no regular HBO ads or anything? It just like went right into it.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even pay attention to it.
They went right into that divergence like thing they did with the trailer.
I did like that.
They had that divergence trailer. I guess the third trailer where it showed all the divergences from our reality into WestWorld's reality.
Right.
And then they used that during the show to kind of just tell you where in the world we were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like that plot element.
I do too.
Well, I think the only complaint you're gonna have from people that I think is it did jump around because they were setting up 4 different. They're setting up the story, and I know my wife doesn't like that stuff. I said, well, you have to kind of be patient as they're setting up the story of what's going to happen. I mean, she doesn't watch WestWorld, but she anytime we're watching a show and it kind of goes dum bum bum, she goes, I don't like that. I go, well, it's setting up what's going on.
Yeah, and it's not just that they're setting up, they're resetting.
Right.
And I will say this, I mean, anybody who listened to our last recording heard me be pretty critical. And I'll say this from the outset, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Like there was enough reset here and panning the camera back to the larger world to make me really interested. Like
yeah,
I actually care about what's going to happen to the hosts now.
Well, maybe that's what we were talking about. They had to reset it. They had to. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of pressure on this season, as we talked about in our preview episode. And I thought they did a really good job. I was into what Aaron Paul's character Caleb was doing. Of course, Dolores. She's going to be she's a BA. I mean, let's face it. She's someone you don't want to mess with.
Yeah. Do the hosts not feel the effects of any kind of chemicals or drugs at all?
Must not, because it's made to subdue and kill humans, right? So
right, and it affects the brain, I guess, and they have a different.
Yeah. So they were making a big mistake with Dolores there. Just.
I mean,
was she playing possum the whole time? Was she just playing dead the whole time?
I think she was. Yeah.
Okay.
Who else got a very much of a Sharon Stone Basic Instinct vibe in that first scene?
I would say so. Yeah. Yeah, I would say it was what was going on there. And they didn't add too many new characters.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times that's a show will make a mistake when you start off with you're throwing all these new people at us and like, okay, I don't know who this is. I don't know who this is. There's a few new characters, but nothing that was too complicated or confusing.
I mean, yeah, they introduced Aaron Paul's character Caleb, and they introduced Francis, which we came to realize pretty quickly wasn't Francis.
Right.
And we don't know who Charlotte is.
No.
Really, and we don't know who her bodyguard, that famous actor guy we don't know who that guy is either, who's in his brain ball.
The bodyguard that was with Liam?
Yeah,
his name yeah, from Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, of course,
okay.
Chips.
Well, his name is Martin. So I looked it up before we started recording here. But yeah, but it wasn't like we got 15 new characters and all this different stuff. I just love the way, and I'm glad you Eckhart, you told us about the ending, because I probably would have stopped and not watched the May part.
Yeah, that credit goes to Ethan. He's the one who told
Ethan?
us.
Ethan? I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's okay.
But I knew it started with an E.
My wife comes down and says, "Did you get to the post-credit scene yet?" And I'm like, "No, I'm still watching it." She goes, "I thought it was a slow episode." All right, thanks. We'll get to the Thanks.
Again, I think some people will think that. I think some people are going to say it was slow, it was choppy, jumping around. But to me, especially the way it picked up, it really did pick up at the end. And it really, not just because there was action and stuff like that, but the story started really going forward, I think. And then you have the connection with, Caleb and Dolores at the end. You kept waiting for them to hook up, well, they weren't hooking up, but to get together. And
I mean, my question was, did you think that he was coming back for some reason because he sensed something, or was that just the way he was walking home?
They didn't really tell us, did they?
No.
I think he sensed something because where he's on that bridge and he's talking to he has the Francis app,
right?
I guess we can call it, and then he deletes the Francis app, and then he starts walking back, and it seemed like he was walking back with a purpose, and not just walking back home. I could be wrong, but it just seemed like that's what he was doing.
Well, I think to me, the Caleb story was actually the main story in this episode, because it's the one that really paints the world. And it's when we talked about this in the last episode, we thought that it would really paint, and it did do that in terms of painting what the quote unquote like blue collar underclass might be like. But what it really did emphasize even more was just like in the dystopian future that they're living in is how much of the world is predetermined, right?
Right.
So that like everything, even when he's trying to better himself, the AI that told him that he didn't get the job tells him there's nothing he can do in the most friendly way. So that, like you said, like when he unplugged out of I guess that was like almost like an app that was treating his post-traumatic stress disorder, right?
Right.
That's probably the first time he did something that was of his own volition, that wasn't ultra violent, right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
So, Ethan, I want to ask you this: like, at what point in time did you think that the Rico app that he always switched to after he rejected the Francis call was actually real versus an actual like game that was in his mind, right?
The Rico app wasn't real the whole time?
See, it's like the first few times, like I always assumed it was almost like a VR that he goes into, right?
Oh, no. I thought it was he needed money and it was something he did. Yeah. No,
I never even thought about it being virtual reality.
Yeah. I mean, that was my assumption until they actually show him in that scene where his story and Dolores's, or Lara Essman, combined, right?
I mean, do you guys watch Black Mirror?
Most of it, yeah.
There's so much Black Mirror throughout this entire episode of things that, I definitely can see where you're coming from with the VR reality thing. But I mean, name something that happened in the episode. It can relate to an episode of Black Mirror. This one is Hang the DJ, the dating app one is kind of like what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's funny. I never even thought about it being virtual reality. Never. But you know what? You could be right.
So, I mean, it might still be that way in the way that, like, there was that parallel of that final scene of Dolores, being shot in the tunnel, and her like needing Pinkman's help, and there must be a parallel to that scene, a scene like that, probably in season 1 of WestWorld between her and young William, because at that point in time they switched to the original WestWorld's music.
Right, they did.
So I have to go back and check that. But I will say this: what I really liked in the opening credits is, I mean, they still use the same theme song, and I didn't pay attention to the actual visuals because I'm sure as the season progresses, we'll make sense of it, right? But already in the opening score, you can hear a little bit of that techno synth pop laid over. And the thing I loved about this this entire episode, and you saw it in all the chase scenes, right? That really heavy, dark thumping synth pop that really reminds you of like the techno music of the 80s, right? And that's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And I mean, Jack, you know this probably better than any of us. When you watch action shows of the 80s, like that's kind of the music that you'd have.
Oh yeah.
But the thing about it was that these scenes that they have, the fight scenes, the chase scenes, they're all so much crisper and more efficient than what we saw in the 80s, that to me, I have this big smile on my face when I watch these scenes, because this is William Gibson's dystopian future really come to the small screen. In terms of all the stuff that he wrote in the 80s and early 90s, this is the perfect representation of it on TV.
Tell me I feel stupid. Who's William Gibson?
William S. Gibson. He wrote Neuromancer, Lawnmower Man, Johnny Mnemonic. He's one of the sci-fi guys from, I would say he started writing this stuff about cyberpunk in the late 70s, early 80s. Okay. And the reason I guess this is relevant was because he realized, like when he was walking through the streets of Vancouver in the early 80s, he watched these kids playing video games, okay? And he just watched them, and he saw not only were they like so into it, but they were moving their body with the actual thing on the screen. And that's when he actually coined the term cyberspace.
Oh, nice.
And so that like a lot of his novels end up being, of course, they're written in the mid and early 80s and then early 90s about like a very dystopian future of, you know, underground crime, Yakuza. And you can see like in a lot of his movies, like the Japanese are the villain because he just assumed at that point that Japan would take over the global economy. But the point is that like I'm sure that his like some of his writing and the original Future World kind of overlap.
Okay. So
that you can see how they're taking these concepts, you know, that were already prevalent in the early 80s, and now they've completely layered on top of the notion of AI and how I think it's called the Rehobola. But there are two different pronunciations of the AI. What did you think it was called?
I was just thinking Rehoboth Beach the whole time you said it.
Yeah, me too, of course.
Yeah.
But the AI that they're talking about is basically Google.
Isn't that the question James just asked in the chat?
I can't see the chat.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. Oh, just go to public. Go to
Rehoboam. Yeah. Oh, this.
Oh, okay. Wow, there you go.
Nice.
Okay.
It's one of those technical things.
Yeah.
Sorry. But I mean, I did notice that the is his name was Ian, right? Ian Dempsey. He was the nominal.
I thought it was Liam. Is it Ian?
Oh, Liam.
I thought it was Liam.
Liam and the I believe she was either Asian or half Asian woman with the blonde hair who he was having the altercation with. They both pronounced the AI differently.
Yeah, I watched it with captions on for this, and I got her name was Martell, I think.
Okay.
Martell, okay.
And just for, you know, if you don't have me here for this kind of thing, I don't know why you have me here. The guy who played Liam and Evan Rachel Wood were both guest stars on The West Wing at different times.
Mm.
I could actually name the episodes, but I won't.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Take note, Jay. You're going to have to say this in your podcast.
I wouldn't have got that. No, because I didn't recognize the guy playing Liam.
Yeah, he was on the Newsroom too, I think. He was,
was he?
Main guy in the Newsroom, and he was in I'll just say it, he was in 20 Hours in America, which is a season 4 opener of The West Wing.
Nice.
Huh,
I know that. I do that in my brain. That's not Google or Rehoboth.
Wow. How many times have you watched The West Wing?
That's another topic for another time.
I mean, I've watched it at least 4 or 5 times, but I just can't pinpoint every episode.
He's the kid when they get lost in America who has to drive around Toby and Josh, and they get sidetracked.
Oh,
the other girl
in Iowa or what?
In Iowa, and they go on the train, but you know, daylight savings makes it an hour earlier in one way. Forget it. Anyway, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Easy. Wow.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Good one.
Now I remember that, but I didn't know. I would never have guessed that.
And she is CJ's niece or whatever when the teacher, Mark Harmon, is watching her at the store.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
Anyway, that's for my West Wing Westworld podcast coming out soon.
It's like a crossover.
That is amazing.
All right, let's talk about Armand Delgado, shall we?
Yes, you got his last name, Armand. Armand's very interesting, and what that whole picture I thought with the 7 pillars that was going to be so important is just a cow farm where he was working.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Armand is Bernard.
Bernard, yes.
Yeah.
So, are we gonna? We'll refer to the guy who's walking around most of the time as Armand, right? And Bernard as the second conscience that he pulls up, right?
Just when he needs to beat someone and do his signature chokehold.
Bernard is Chuck Norris.
Right. Well, how does Armand have the mental acuity to like stop himself from going too far?
I was thinking the same thing. It's almost like he gives one command, and then Bernard completes it, right? And then it returns back to the host. So I think when he's about to beat up those two guys, he says something like, "Don't hurt them too much."
Right.
Yeah, he does say that. Yeah, you're correct.
So like it's almost like he executed the "don't hurt them too much" macro.
So whatever that little remote thing he has, it's probably verbal, right?
I think that remote thing he has is like what coders would use to put a semicolon at the end of a line of code, and that would basically signal to the compiler to execute it.
I wanted it to I wanted to make the car beeping sound when he hit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you're right, though. I think he did say, "Don't hurt them too bad."
Right.
So he just wanted to get them subdued so he could escape and leave his cushy job at the meat factory.
At the meat factory. Probably doesn't smell good in there.
No.
Shout out to Jim in chat. Does he mean Alice Krieg? He mentioned the Borg Queen. I want to get that straight. Okay.
By the way, we did get some sort of, I guess, initial confirmation that WestWorld is near China.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of circumstantial. Like he asked them, the guys that were manning the boat were definitely speaking Mandarin. So,
well, and that brings me another question that just came up in my mind, which is like, is WestWorld, is that what they call the whole park? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, it's WestWorld Park, but then you have like different. You have the different there's different parts at WestWorld. There was like.
Okay. Why wouldn't they call it like Delos World, and inside Delos World is WestWorld and Future World and Nazi World now? No,
yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what they
the happiest place on Earth.
Well, maybe it is different because what was Shogun World?
It was Shogun World.
Yeah,
Shogun World. So maybe there are different parts, and they just say, "Take me to WestWorld" as the.
I think they're definitely doing just a parallel here to Disney's Magic Kingdom, in terms of like that was in Orlando. That was the first one, right? And then they added on Epcot Center and stuff like that, and Disney's Wild Jungle. But people refer to like Magic Kingdom and the whole park interchangeably, right?
Well, Disney, the original Disneyland, I know they have Frontierland. Can't remember I'm drawing a blank all the lands, but Fantasyland and all. They have like 4 different lands, and now they have California Park Adventure that they built like 20 years ago. So yeah, that is a good point. It is similar to Disneyland, except Mickey Mouse doesn't go crazy and start killing you.
That's Itchy and Scratchy Land.
Yeah.
Hi, Jim. I see you there. Okay, not the TV one, on the movie one. Okay.
I was actually amazed at how much I enjoyed this episode, even though we didn't get to see Ed Harris.
I thought about that at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end, I said, "Oh, no, Ed Harris."
Well, I mean, they're kind of doing this almost this leftovery thing. I'll try not to reference the leftovers too much. even though there was leftovers imagery in the credits with the two people underwater. But but maybe they're doing a thing where like they're gonna do like a point of view episode for 3 or 4 episodes, and then they'll converge in one. Maybe next week will be Maeve, obviously, and then we'll get Ed Harris or something like that. We might not see him for a couple episodes.
Jack, can you imagine how amazing it's going to be if they put Ed Harris in the Mary episode, right?
It's funny though, we see the Maeve part for just quick 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part I wanted to see. I was what, okay, I want to know more about what's going on there, because she seems like she just wakes up from something, right? So that it's almost like, it's like she's back at WestWorld, and how they wake up and, they start their day all over again. And then you open up and it's Nazi somewhere.
I'm trying to know which big muckety muck is either wanting to kill Nazis on his vacation or wanting to kill like Jewish people.
It's just,
you know what I mean? It's like one or the other. That's the fantasy. Is like, I want to either go be a Nazi in World War II, or I want to be like someone who kills Hitler in World War II. Like, what else is going on? I'm getting a little annoyed with the cheap use of like swastika flags to shock you and things. Just because it's like anytime you want to shock someone and things, you can throw up a swastika. We'll see how it goes. I love Maeve. I want to see what happens, but it's like it happens a lot these days, I think.
Ethan, I got this really like bad feeling that like the host that she plays is actually like somebody that works for the Germans.
Right. Because,
but
wasn't she? She was interrogating the German.
I mean, she woke up with a gun in her hand, and there was a dead German on the floor, and another tied up, beat up one over there.
She had bruises on her knuckles.
Yep.
So
and didn't the beat up one say like, "What are you still doing here? Get out of here"?
It was in German. I have no idea.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that's what he said. I mean, I'll go back. Sorry, I should have taken that down. But I think he said, I think in a slang, almost like a slang term, he said, "What are you still doing here? Get out." Okay. And that's why actually that I wasn't sure that scene where they panned out if it was a situation where I think the scenario is one where because of the banners already up that this was a town that's occupied by the Nazis, that it's being liberated.
Huh.
I think that the scenario might be the liberation of a Nazi-occupied territory.
Okay, yeah, I can live with that.
If we're going with the good side of human nature, if we're going with the absolute worst, which Delos, traffics in, then it might be, your alt-right fantasy.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right that's where that's going to go.
Yeah.
Well, because you had Charlotte when she was at the board meeting, because I like how one guy said, "Who died made her boss." Is she's standing behind him, but she said that she wants to keep the parks going, even though there was 136 deaths, right?
113.
113 deaths. You have no heart. You have no this, and she says that's what people want. People want fear. They want the, I guess, reality of. Her saying it's going to be if they're going to make more money,
right
now after what happened,
and she wants to go private, right?
Right.
Yeah,
she wants to go private so they don't have to answer to shareholders or anybody else.
Exactly.
And that empty chair is Ed Harris, right?
I believe so.
I thought so at first, but I was thinking about it too, and I think that probably makes sense. But as the episode progressed, and they were talking about the other company, the Liam's company, right?
Yeah.
Where they were, they made a reference both to his dad, and they made a reference to his dad's partner, right? That created the AI, and of course, there's the duality there, comparing it to Bernard and Silence of the Lambs. But the point is, it's like they were referring to both Dempsey's dad and the co-creator of the AI and the co-creator of the AI, like they made him seem a bit inaccessible. And then they also refer to a guy Serac,
right,
later on, and it's not clear who that is. So that like it could be that like any one of those individuals could have also been on the board Delos, right? And the reason I say that is because you look at most corporations and you look at their board of directors, and it's usually CEOs of other corporations, right?
Sure. Right.
So that I think one of the reasons why, they introduced this company, besides the fact that it seems to be the Google and Facebook of this reality, that there probably is some sort of linkage between Insight and Delos.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have no doubt.
Well, I agree with you, because my first thought was either Jacob from Lost or Ed Harris, or William, because I kept saying he, him, and it just had a very Lost. If you guys have watched Lost, I know you guys have, but people listening.
But to be fair, it could have also been Willem's father-in-law, right?
Yeah.
No, he's not. He's dead though.
Did he die?
James Delos.
Yeah, but the thing is that he might have had. This is kind of what they're insinuating, was that his board seat was being controlled by an AI, right? That and
kind of like Francis.
But it's more like okay, so there's a kind of a theory of there's kind of a theory of immortality that's become popular in the last few years, where you basically put yourself to sleep until they've actually discovered how to resuscitate your body, right? And in the meantime, because you're not quote unquote dead, somebody basically runs your property like a trust, right? So you might have put an AI in charge, like an actual AI in charge of his decision making.
You're talking about Futurama now with the heads. That's what that is.
Oh yeah, it's also. I mean, it's the topic of one of the most recent Neil Stephenson books. So we have to assume that, like as you said, Ethan, that they're basically mining Black Mirror and all the popular sci-fi for ideas, right?
Right.
Yeah, she even muted someone at the meeting.
Yeah, I like that part.
Yeah.
He's like,
hey, Jack, you need that for when you do the podcast with Jay and the other guy,
Mike.
Yeah.
I don't have that power. I'm just along for the show. I mean,
that's why you have to take the podcast private.
But I also like how they got in there. They did get in their little political points too, with Charlotte says robots don't kill people, people kill people.
Oh, right. I saw that immediately.
That was not subtle. Anyway, so that board meeting was very interesting though, and I still wonder who her brain ball is.
Yeah, we don't know, do we?
No, and it seems like it might be Dolores doing everything. In some fashion, if she made multiple brain balls of herself. But who knows?
It definitely, that Charlotte in the meeting definitely did not feel like Teddy. I don't think Teddy would be able to get the word private equity out.
So now Caleb said he was shot in the head.
Yes.
Because he said that's not the first time I've been shot in the head.
Yeah, because he says that you think pointing a gun to it's the first time I've had a gun pointed to my face. He goes, and the guy says, "Well, it'll be the first time been shot in the head."
He's like, "No, not really."
And then the guy puts the gun down.
It's true, he did.
So it's like, so why did the guy? Because I was like, why would a guy? Okay, if you point a gun at somebody, you got the power, right? I would assume so. But then when he said that, the guy just put the gun down and let him walk by.
Unless, of course, you're the first human host hybrid that was brought over from the Sublime by Dolores. Just saying, that could be what it is.
I think the answer is a lot simpler. I think that guy wasn't that intelligent.
No,
and go back to the quote, which was, they built the world to be a game and then rigged it to make sure that they always won. And he was probably part of the ones that always won, except that night he ended up losing a few minutes later.
And they've been doing this since the beginning, though, because they touched on this back when it was Felix and Sylvester originally. When they show you all the lower text in the WestWorld park. Mm-hmm. They do all this background talking about how, you can't. This is your station, and you pulled a job from at this level, and so it just shows that the whole bigger world is like that too. You know what I mean? Everyone's at their station. You have to get enough points to move up, kind of like in that other Black Mirror episode with Bryce Dallas Howard. You know what I mean?
James said Armand Delgado is an anagram for Damage Arnold.
Which, by the way, is going to be the line that Jake
Dang.
Gladfelter uses this year in his podcast over and over and over.
Poor Jay. I did want to talk about the opening scene with the guy Jerry. And,
Yes.
And he's now
Is it his spot at the table?
I'm sorry, what?
Is it his spot at the table?
I don't know.
Okay,
His spot at the table.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But I did like that he must have been a visitor to the park.
Oh, he definitely was.
Yeah, because she makes a comment saying, "Yeah, you remember me," and he's like, and he's very abusive towards women, and she makes him remember everything he had done.
Yep.
I thought it was a good opening to the show.
She does the same thing to Chibs later.
Yes.
So, by the way, I love the fact that she calls him Jerry, even though his name is obviously Gerhard, right? I mean, and it's like, and it was very timely that the first scene of the show is a guy upset about not being able to sell his stock.
Is that what it was? He wasn't a higher up. He was trying to sell stock, right?
No, his exact line was, and earmuffs to the kids was, "I pay you so that I don't have to wait in any fucking lines to sell the stock."
Wow, you'd be really good in that world that Mabe was in with that.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah, pretty scary.
But no, I mean that's where like they did such a good job with the opening scene of making it really like into like a Basic Instinct, Sliver, whatever you want to call it, like any of those movies. Like, I was like, this is a different vibe than WestWorld. The second,
it is. Yeah. Well, I like when the guy's wife, Jerry, whatever you want to call him, comes out and she says, "Who are you?" She goes, "I'm the one that set you free."
Yeah.
And he pulled a full Ted Beneke into that pool, man.
Yeah.
Like he went straight down. And what do you think of the X-ray glasses? We're going to see those again, that's for sure.
The ones that she put on Jerry?
Yeah, the ones she put on Jerry.
Yeah.
What I thought about that was that like that technology that she put on him, right? Which we're not sure if that's a Delos or Insight technology. That kind of was that technology would be the one that would speak towards Jack and my prior thesis that all of WestWorld was a simulation, right?
But it was even mentioned.
Yeah. When
they were at the party, and the guy that was high on something, he said everything's a simulation.
That guy was in Rome, by the way.
He's in the TV show Rome.
He was in the TV show Rome. He tried to poison Atia, but ended up killing her slave girl.
Oh.
Just in case anyone was curious.
Ironically, Jack, that guy also in that Dempsey family, he's basically the Roman Roy of that family.
Oh, is he the Roman Roy of that family?
So we have the full circle there.
He looks like he's the Logan of that family too.
So,
do you think that was just something because you just think they were throwing that out there, kind of misdirection to kind of get people?
That was a straight Lindelof.
Yeah, because it's like
we're going to tell you what you're thinking, and so we can dismiss it to your face.
So you can say, "Hey, you were wrong."
Yeah,
we're gonna put the guy that's drunk and high come up with this theory, so we know it's not true.
It's like him saying, "Spoilers: Dr. Manhattan can't be a person. He can't look like us."
Right.
Like eight episodes.
Speaking of drunk and high, one of those Rico scenes where that ends with, I believe it's Marshawn Lynch. Is that who it is?
I know it's someone famous. I'm not sure who it is.
I think Marshawn Lynch.
Is it Marshawn
Lynch? Somebody referred to that guy's Marshawn Lynch. I'm not sure if it is or not, but
I'll go back and look.
He ends up punching that guy. That to me was actually one of the most fascinating tidbits because the guy they're coming to subdue is obviously really wealthy, right?
Right.
Yep.
And he overdosed on some sort of a drug, which seem to be able to control from the same type of touchpads as they control the hosts. So
you're correct. Yeah.
There was there is some sort of a like techno narcotic aspect that I think they're going to delve into, and that's probably going to be a much bigger role in this. By the way, Jack, the first thought that came to mind when they showed that naked guy dancing was I had to think about Flash Forward with Blue Hand.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's an old. Forgot about Blue Hand. But, the way. Now we've not seen the wafer thing before, right? That's new.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his mom had one, and we saw Jerry take one, and his mom, who has Alzheimer's or something.
Right. Because she says you're not my son.
Yeah, and they take it at night too. Oh, she says it. She says you're not my son. Maybe because she can tell that he's not her son because he's a human hybrid from.
I was thinking the same thing. Why would they throw that? Why would they throw that line in? You're not my son.
Yeah.
Yep.
Planting the seed.
Or maybe he's Francis, or maybe there's some kind of.
Oh,
here comes
Here we go.
First crack fight.
Maybe he's taken over someone else. He's taken over someone else's life.
Can I give you some friendly advice, Jack?
Yeah.
Mention that at the beginning of your official podcast, because if you don't, someone else is going to just blurt that out within the first 15 seconds.
All right, I'm writing that down right now.
Did we officially name this show yet? Notes for Jay?
Notes for Jay? Should we say that?
Yeah.
No, is that what the name of this podcast?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I was thinking because it just seemed like a strange thing to say. I mean, it was too. It'd be a wasted line. I mean, it just seemed like it'd be a wasted line. I mean, obviously there was something wrong with her.
The
You're not my son, and he doesn't say anything back to her.
Right.
But could it also be a response to someone who is really sick and he has Alzheimer's or she has Alzheimer's? But Jerry took the tab at night before he put on his sleep apnea machine.
Yeah.
Obviously, and she took it at night before she went to bed. So are they controlling sleep dreams or dreams, however you call them? Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did notice that, but I got just a certain thing. I want to dream about.
It might be the same thing as what that guy at the Blue Hand group did, but to much less extreme. Because before he actually lies down, doesn't he Jerry types a few things into that screen?
Mm-hmm.
He does, yeah.
And I think there's like an image of like a palm tree or something like that. I'll have to go back and check it.
It looked like it was like a beach type scene where.
But they did do a better job of making that whole line of "You're not my son" being more, having more room for interpretation in terms of either Alzheimer or she recognizes that it isn't her son, right?
Right.
And I would say there might be some sort of parallel between the way that she doesn't recognize him and the way that Abernathy doesn't recognize Dolores.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure we're going to find like a lot of whether they're relevant or not.
I think there's definitely more there because it just seems like it just was not a throwaway line. As far as my thinking was, it wasn't a throwaway line.
All right, let me ask you guys this. You guys remember season 1 and 2 better than I do. Do they ever show Dolores' mom?
Not if they do, it's like dead on the floor after.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Jack, add this, mark off this territory, add another crackpot theory to your list. that Pinkman's mom is actually Dolores' mom.
Wow.
I mean, that is like, it doesn't get any more Jack Glatfelder than that, right?
I wasn't even thinking that way. So that's if that comes true, all hail to you. I mean, that's
we're just basically, it's like buying up internet domain names. They might not be worth anything. But we just want to squat on that to make sure that those two other guys don't get them.
Well, since we're pulling every little thread, did it not look like to you that Aaron Paul may have had an obvious hairpiece?
Yes.
Okay. You did see that. All right.
I definitely.
He said he was shot in the head and he's got an obvious hairpiece. That's all I'm saying.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, that hair was like puffy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and what personals? He doesn't do personals.
Yes.
So he's got this Rico app, and he does crimes. We need you to. And what they do is they get like an episode of Black Mirror, Shut Up and Dance, they get different people to do different parts of the crime and pass it along, but he doesn't do personals. And I guess that just means anything specifically with having to get someone off of drugs or having to kill somebody. I guess now I say it out loud, that's what it means. He won't assassinate anyone for the app.
Well, going back to Eckhart's thing, it could have been virtual reality, because to me, when they blew up the ATM and they put the money in the card and he walks away, this is what year 20 technology's everywhere. Would they have cameras? I mean, they didn't disguise themselves. So how are you getting away with this? Well,
they were standing on the side. She had that other part of her app which played music and everybody that was around.
Yeah, right.
So maybe they have the same kind of thing for cameras for a very limited amount of time. I don't know. I just think with the blowing up of the thing, it makes it not virtual reality. I'm planting my flag firmly in not virtual reality.
Yeah, I'm in agreement too, because it's like that's how we get links up with Dolores, unless that was simulated too, but I don't think so. But yeah, I mean that felt like it was either sloppy, like
lazy.
I won't go lazy because I won't use lazy for the show because of what they did with Shogun World in terms of all the work they did there. But it is kind of weird. Like, you're right. Like, in this hyper-connected world, how can you even... Actually, that was my original thought, was like, how can you even commit any crime if it's 100% surveillance? And I mean, the simple answer is what Ethan said, that jamming device, right?
Yeah. But they were in Los Angeles, correct?
I think so.
At that time, yeah.
At that time, okay, I've been to Los Angeles. The traffic in Los Angeles is crazy. Now you're telling me in the future there's no traffic?
We live around the DC Beltway, so
yeah. I mean, there was. I mean, during the day there was no traffic. At night there was no traffic. There was no. I mean, LA. 3:00 in the morning there's traffic. It's crazy. So, how many people actually live in Los Angeles in 2058?
Well, okay, so this will actually be good because it'll give me an excuse to read the points of the Divergence trailer, because that might answer something. It might not.
Okay.
But it says in June 2019, there was wide-scale protests in Hong Kong, so that actually happened. In December 2019, there's an impeachment of the 45th president. That actually happened. Then on May 20th, 2020, an ecological collapse in Indonesia. In December of 2024, and the assassination of the president-elect of the United States of America. In October 2025, thermonuclear incident in Paris.
Okay.
In 2037, the start of the Second Russian Civil War. And in 2039, the system initiated undisclosed location Solomon build. So I assume that's when WestWorld came online.
Okay.
And 22758 is a critical event unknown location. So that didn't give us any answers, but I think that's the beginning of the season.
Yeah, well, that was where they keep referring to those scenes as critical events, right?
Right.
And I think, isn't that what I think you said her name was Martel?
Yeah.
That's why she actually talks to him face to face, right? There's a critical event.
Yeah, it's probably WestWorld. What happened with Dolores and WestWorld? So I don't have an answer, Jack. It's just that everybody's probably
unless, because the scene where he meets up with the guy, the guy gives him the bag and he goes, "Have you driven one of these before?" And he goes, "Yes." So it's an actual car. So maybe there's just not a lot of, maybe people don't travel.
Also,
maybe they hover around.
And now that you mention it, though, like he goes to work at a big construction site, but it's like him and a robot and another guy and a robot.
I love that, by the way, because it was like, this is a big theme now in terms of like human machine collaboration.
Yeah, he's even having lunch with the robot, right?
And it's like, he's like, yeah, he's fine. He doesn't really talk back, but it was
George, I think his name was.
What it really emphasizes, like, really like so it's like, he doesn't have to do any of the dangerous work, right? He just has to feed him the line.
Yeah.
And they're accomplishing something, and like he still cares about his efficiency with the stats, but it just shows how everything in his life is just bounded, right? And even though he's like, it's almost like he's being productive, like they're laying all that fiber optic cable, but it's like, that's it. That's his life, right?
Yeah. Well, then the stats are important, because you have to have stats to, because when he was talking to he didn't know if it was a real person or not. It kind of reminds, we've all had it where we're trying to talk to somebody at a company, and you go, press 2 for this, and you can't get to that. You can't get to that person. Give me a live person. Give me something, and you're screaming at it. Mm-hmm. But he was very calm. I don't know what
time the movies are playing.
But it reminded me of that frustration where you're just like going, just let me talk to a human.
I was expecting Pinkman to come out at that point in time, right? But that's where, obviously the character is different, but what was amazing was that, you could see, even at that point in time, knowing how he knew that the situation he's in feels like there's no progress, there's no room forward, that he realized it's not even worth getting upset about, right?
No.
But when he gives up Francis, though, doesn't he basically tell that system that he's not playing that game anymore? Yep. Completely?
We'll see. I mean, how that impacts his actual daytime job, right?
Well, because the actual shrink said, if you don't, the system may be flawed, but you have to do it if you don't want to go back to the VA or whatever they said happens to him.
Wow. By the way, all this, as we talked this through, obviously there's this parallel between, him awakening, right? Let's just assume he's human, right? Let's not get into the hybrid stuff. But he's awakening here from this almost this path that was been predetermined by the data, right?
Right.
And it's really parallel to the way that Ford wakes up his creations.
And he has been through suffering, which is one of the main components that they were missing for so long. Right.
And if he did get shot in the head, how did he survive? Right?
Yeah, totally. new cybernetic hairpiece, and he's good to go.
But I mean, it would be kind of ironic if the theme turns out to be, I mean, we know that Dolores comes to, we'll call it the mainland. Okay, she's on the mainland, to exact some sort of revenge, right? But there would be some sort of irony to it in the sense that she's coming to wake up people,
right,
from the fact that the reality that they're living in, so much of it is, so many of them are going through life the way that the hosts went through their lives in the park.
That's
good point.
And that that guy that was that guy that was overdosing at the party, who was quote unquote someone wealthy or whatever it was.
Yeah,
he's kind of one of the guests that would go to WestWorld, right?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So,
what about Dolores's motorcycle? Because at the end, I thought the motorcycle was coming to, whisk her away, take her, get her out of there, and it just turned out to kill the third guy.
I was just looking for Jeff Bridges and Bruce Boxleitner when I saw this motorcycle.
You thought it was Tron?
I thought it was Tron. Yeah, man.
That was fascinating.
I did like the fact that the way that she can interface with the other machines that are non-humanoid.
Right.
Wait. Is Jim in the chat saying that Teddy is the light cycle?
That was a very Teddy thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just saw that Teddy. Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, so I can only assume.
Yeah, I just Jim will have to clarify that, but
So, I got a question for Ethan. Since you watched most of Black Mirror and I've only seen a few episodes, how do from an enjoyment factor, how does this compare to Black Mirror?
Black Mirror is shot in the head. Black Mirror is it's so different you can judge every episode differently on its own merits and decide
Right.
if it has rewatchability or not. So like lately they've been it's gone down, of course, I think, but
Right.
it's got some really good episodes in it. I can give you a list.
But so have you watched Altered Carbon?
I've watched the first 2 episodes of Altered Carbon.
Okay. So I would say this feels like that.
Yeah.
In terms of dystopian near future, and also in terms of just like the overarching plot point in terms of like the disparity between like the technology like overclass versus the rest of society.
Right.
So and it's in many ways it's relevant today, but a lot of these themes were already written in the late 80s, early 90s as like kind of warnings against the internet. So
but now we can actually see them with these great, sci-fi things. We can actually see the realization of them with the modern, movie making. Like this is a Michael Crichton idea, right?
Yeah.
This whole thing. So
and it was weird in the sense that like so much of the stuff that they touched on in the episode, it's like, yeah, we're already dealing with that today. We're already living in this dystopia right now.
Well, forgive me, it's certainly emptier on the streets traffic wise right now.
Yeah.
But
so
sorry.
There was a scene too where he was waiting to see the psychiatrist, where someone behind him had a mask on.
Really?
Yeah, someone had a black mask on, like a surgical, like a mask sitting there waiting. I went, huh? I wonder if they put that. I wonder if they put that in there just for.
Maybe it's maybe it's Titus Welliver.
But I said, wow, there's a guy wearing a mask, huh?
So instead of like digitally taking out a Starbucks coffee cup on a table, they digitally put in a black mask. Okay.
Yeah. Just curious. I mean, I'm sure other people saw it, but it just, what's going on today in the world, just kind of, but I know this is 2058. So
well, this internet talk show we're doing is going to live forever. So let's not date it too much.
There we go. That's true.
Yeah.
So I think all around, we enjoyed it, right?
I loved it. I thought it was. Anytime like I said, especially the way it ended with Maeve, I was like going, don't end. Oh, I gotta wait a week.
But that's it's a perfect example of why they shouldn't put everything in the trailer. Because imagine, I don't know if you guys saw the trailers, but
saw some, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that, so I wasn't surprised. The shock factor was not there. So if they had not put that at all in the trailer, imagine how blown your mind would have been to open it up and see.
To be honest with you, I forgot all about it.
Oh, okay.
I was like, but it's just, to me, it just, you like you said, it wasn't until the end. I forgot. Well, we didn't see Ed Harris. Because I was pretty much into the episode. So it's not one of those things. Well, where's Ed Harris? Where's Maeve? What's going on here? Why aren't we seeing these characters? And because I thought the episode had a pretty good flow to it, and especially it really did pick up at the end with Dolores going Rambo on everybody and stuff like that.
I can't give a clear answer whether I liked it or not. I'm sure I did, but the instant chatting about it right after was so new to me. I was so concentrating on taking like notes, so I knew I could do that stuff. That I'll watch it again. I did enjoy it. I want to see what's going to happen. But
I have to say, I felt a little bad about being harsh on season 2, but it makes me realize that season 2 was probably hard to write. It was probably hard to fill up 10 episodes. That's why it felt like there was so much repetition. By the way, Jack, I'm sorry, I should have gotten this in earlier this week. I mean, the QA is basically a log carrying guy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost like they wanted to out log carrying guy Lost, because all I kept seeing in season 2 were a bunch of new QA guys rolling up to be shot down by like revolvers, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what they were built for, right?
Red shirt.
For.
Right. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the season, and hopefully they don't time jump too much. I know we're going to have to do some with Ed Harris, I'm sure, but
yeah, hopefully they don't do that. But I think they've set up the story of season 3. They did a great job tonight of setting it up.
Yeah.
But you were saying about Eckhart. You were saying how season 2 was hard. Filling 10 episodes. I still remember when this thing first started. When season 1, I remember on the weeks. How are they going to keep this going? It's because I pretty sure I heard 5 years. I go, WestWorld, the movie. It was like, okay, it was fascinating. It was interesting. How are you going to make a TV show about this? And they did a pretty good job. Season 2 dropped off, but they're going a different direction in season 3, and I think that's you can see now how they're going to make it work.
Well, this is the first time I realized when I was looking into it that each season has a title. So the first season is called The Maze. The second season is called The Door. This season is called The New World.
New World, okay.
So if they got 2 more titles already for like 4 and 5, I think it won't be a problem.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure in the beginning I heard they had 5 seasons it was planned for 5 seasons.
Yeah.
But if this season's not successful, there's no way HBO is going to keep them around.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's blowing up. It's a big sci-fi hit.
Yeah. And this I mean, it's been sci-fi from day one, but this really had a sci-fi feel to it.
Totally.
Robots that can, control, that is obviously sci-fi, but but this had it even looked like a sci-fi with the futuristic, the hover, whatever that thing was that was floating around, and
yeah, it feels like they're treading water
drone
to get to this point, waiting to be full like sci-fi. What I liked, I just want to throw out, I really liked it when they asked Dolores, where'd you meet him? Where'd you come from? Where do you come from? She goes, oh, a small town out in the West.
Yeah,
right. Off the beaten path.
Off the beaten path.
She was telling the truth,
Yeah, she was.
By the way, Ethan, you wouldn't lie to me, would you?
No.
That's where you say, no, of course not. Sorry, I didn't say it right. I said, would you ever lie to me, Ethan?
Oh, no, of course not.
But overall, we all agree. Great episode. Great episode. Well, Ethan, you're not sure yet, right?
No, I'm not sure yet, but that's just because, I got to switch out my brain balls.
Well, let me put it this way. It was better than most of season 2 episodes, right?
Yeah. And,
yeah.
So we have to give them credit for making progress, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to bash season 2, but season 2 just never made sense. Because why wouldn't the host instead of the host all fighting, they should have been anyway.
I don't want to bash season 2, but it was terrible.
I didn't think it was terrible. I liked season 2 because I enjoy that type of TV, but this definitely got me pumped up. I was like, okay.
Definitely.
Perhaps the most important tidbit of season 2, as we look at season 3 now, is that we have to assume that most humans are kind of dumb. Okay, because the number of QA people who I'm assuming were all human that just kind of rushed into the breach after so many other people had gotten killed, like there was just like a lack of common sense there.
Well, you think that maybe the reason that they do that is because as you see, computers and electronics, we see it now, control people's lives. I mean, people can't do anything without looking at their phone or doing this. I mean, you go to any event, you see people that are all like this, that we're not thinking, we don't think for ourselves anymore. We let the computers. So now the computers are killing us. Well, who's going to help us? They're killing us now.
That's the thing. I mean, it's like if you take, I'm going to say his name properly, Caleb's story, and layer it onto random QA guy, you could just imagine a situation where like they get like an announcement right from a friendly voice that says you're going to need to, there's been an incident in this sector, you need to go there. They're not told that 100 QA people have already died this season, right?
Right.
And they know that they have to go in there because otherwise it's going to mess up their stats, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that the whole effect of like the AI controlling like their efficiency is just to rob them of any sort of like common sense, right?
Right.
And if you have someone that does show us a speck of smarts or anything like Felix, who wants to work on creating the bird in the first season, that's not liar. The rest of them are low level who just want to figure out a way to have sex with the robots.
Right.
By the way, how many more Scottish people are we going to throw in here? Like in season 2, they threw in that Scottish mercenary just for the sake of throwing in another Scottish guy, the guy with the handlebar mustache.
Yeah.
It lasted like a second.
Yeah, and he just kind of went in there to tell people to fuck off.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that was one of the things with season 2. There was lots of, shoehorned in stuff there just to, give people the bang bang shoots we like so much. Sorry.
Yeah, we need that kind of excitement, but
yeah.
But we'll be back next week, right?
Yep.
About same time. It depends on when the episode ends. We're like 15, 20 minutes after it ends, we'll be up. If you subscribe, you'll get a little notification saying, hey, we're on, and you can join us in the chat. Jim and James did. I'm guessing there's more people in there. Just didn't want to talk, didn't want to say anything, but I thought good first episode, guys.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah. I can't wait to watch it again, Matt, to be honest with you.
Yep.
I'm definitely going to rewatch.
All right. We'll be back next week, guys.
All right. Take care.
Hasta luego and goodbye.
Oh my God, he said the thing. Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.